da bimbo, ti chiamo angoscia d'adulto, ma oggi ti guardo e ti chiedo, vuoi ballare con me?
I think the idea of how important is it in hip-hop to be able to represent something, and where you're from, what your crew or your community does, what you're about, seem to be very important elements of it. The time period I got into hip-hop, the where you're from, had almost more importance than any of the other ones. If you weren't from New York, New Jersey, LA, maybe one or two other cities, in 88, 90, 92, you were not coming out. When folks started coming out of Chicago or started coming out of Florida, yeah, there was Luke and Poison Clan and Two Live Crew. That was like it. Everyone that came out of that part of Florida was coming through those two kind of brands. If you were in Oakland, maybe you got some music out, but you could tour locally. So there are all these people like Too Short who had been out, but they weren't getting their records all the way to D.C. And when they did, they represented the streets of Oakland. Like you hear, that whole movements are behind these geographic and location-based identities. Being from D.C., that didn't help us. Like coming out, being like, I'm from D.C., I also don't speak like people from D.C. If you hear anyone from D.C., we have a very strong accent. Instead of saying Maryland, we say Maryland. Instead of saying Erica, we say Erica. There are a lot of ways people from D.C. speak that's different than Baltimore, different from any of the other cities around there. I don't even sound like that. I don't dress like that. And so I didn't fit the aesthetic or the kind of identity for a D.C. person during that time period. I dress more like people from New York. Then I go down to Atlanta. I'm down there, and they're like, oh, what's up, New Yorker? I'm like, I'm not from New York. I don't even know what some of these New Yorkers are talking about. I don't know what a God or a earth is. I never met a 5%er. But I get lumped in. You a Yankee, so you must be one of those New Yorkers. And it's like, no, I'm from D.C., And this where you from thing troubled me. Like I'm not from Atlanta. I don't live in D.C. anymore. I don't feel attached identity-wise to any of those places at the end of the day. But they were shaping my experience. Like if you ask me now, where you from? I say I grew up in D.C. I've been living in New York 15 years, but growing up in a city that was almost 60% black, where our mayor was black my whole entire life, where you saw prominent black folks who were in the church, who had businesses, who were lawyers, who were doctors, whole neighborhoods of nice black neighborhoods. And you also had the crack era, where D.C. was more dangerous and had more deaths by handgun violence than Lebanon, where you saw there are no poor white people in D.C. Like growing up, there's not a single neighborhood where you saw a bunch of poor white folks. You had homeless white folks, unhoused white folks, sprinkled. But whole areas of like hood white, no. And that shaped my understanding of what the world is. Like being in D.C. and seeing politics shaped my idea of the world. And then what's expected? Like how do I view then hip hop turning global and like it being this kind of black art in my mind, get to New York and it's like, well, nah, a lot of Puerto Rican folks have been heavily involved in hip hop. A lot of Dominican folks have been heavily involved in hip hop. A lot of Filipino folks have been heavily involved. You look out in California, some of the people that shaped like Cuba, who shaped my influence, they weren't black. And so then again, I had this other understanding of like, hip hop is a globally important thing rooted in what I thought was black culture. But now I got to rethink that like, my homie from Brazil, he doesn't call himself black, but he darker than me. I live on 161st in Amsterdam, and the dude from DR speaks Spanish heavy. Like, we aren't speaking in English. Uses the N-word, but says he's not black. And uses the N-word while he says, I'm not black, N-word, calling me the N-word. And I had to then look back and realize, like, when I'm watching Wild Style, when I'm watching these old videos, some of these white kids, they were Puerto Rican. But I looked at them like, oh, that's a white kid. Because in D.C., it was like this. I didn't get nationality, ethnicity, fake race, all these other things. And I would want to say that it mattered when I was coming up that you represented something. So whether it was as a young black man or whether it was from D.C. or you had to represent that. And it's odd now looking back at that narrative that it's pushed like, hip-hop started from the Jamaican culture and the dance halls and grew into Cool Herc and this and that. And I'm kind of one of the people who, I don't think any culture or product emanated from one place at one time. I'm in the boat of the West African dance, the griot tradition, the spoken word, the music and the heartbeat and the drums that came out of various parts of the world, the painting on the caves, whether it's in North Africa, whether it's in Neander Valley, France. Like, people have been doing all this stuff for so long, but there was something really special about when all these people in the Bronx, after things got burned out and whatever, and the Bahamas came up with a transformer and other people figured out how to use aerosol cans, to where there's something special. But the way I look at that, it definitely wouldn't have happened without Puerto Rican folks that were involved. And it's not about black, white, Puerto Rican. It's like all these community members were in the same place of having nothing and were ingenuitive. And so there were Jewish people there. There was white folks who was Catholic or Protestant who put out the music. When you look at the early hip-hop records, those labels weren't owned by black people. And so there's always been a mixed community of people who saw something in the future that wasn't there yet and took the risk and blood, sweat, tears. Like, at a certain point, if you rap, you are risking your life because you're going places everyone's afraid to go. You're dealing with people that have literally been cast out of every other possible industry. And you're in the pool of, where's the money come from? Dope. Where's the money come from? Gangster shit. Where's the money come from? People who rob banks. Where's the money come from? Rich investment firms. And all this is in the same place. And so, like, that, like, you know, where you from, who you with, is very strong to me, very influential.
I'm thinking about for example, Bed-Stuy, which is like a neighborhood that was very, I would say, important for the hip hop culture. There was a lot of Italian American living at the same time with black people, and Spike Lee, I mean, kind of like picture that.
So I didn't experience that growing up. Like, being in DC, white folks lived on this side of the park, black folks lived in the other part of the city. I saw TV shows where there were white folks who seemed to grow up with hip hop, right? I graduated high school in '96, so no internet yet. The breadth of hip hop, it was still a black culture thing, and if you were white and liked it, people called you a wigger. But in New York, it looked like, from what I saw on TV or whatever, that it was different. I got up here in 2001 or so, and I met white cats who didn't hang out with black people, but dressed like the rappers and sounded like they Italian Americans. And it confused the hell out of me. I did not understand it, and it wasn't fake. It wasn't them trying to take on a persona. I was used to white people imitating black people. I'm meeting white New Yorkers who grew up with Wu-Tang. It was around. Like, their cultural influence was hip-hop, possibly more than me, you know? And that was new to me. Seeing then also how internationally New York draws these people from around the world that love hip hop. So when I first met you, one of the first ways we bonded is we're at the crib doing a photo shoot or something. You're like, I'm a DJ. And I'm like, I don't let people DJ. I got selective taste. And I'm like, wait, Chris, calm it down. Don't be that dude. Sure, what you want to play? 3 songs in, I'm like, whoa, where are you from? What is going on? This is too dope. And then you start talking about the movie you had made and worked on. And I'm like, oh, you made a movie? And you're like, yo, we should watch it. And I'm like, I do not sit through these half-hour, hour-long movies people come over here with. But we start watching it. It's all in Italian. And within the first 5 minutes, I'm like, I don't know the words being said, but that dude's saying freestyles off the top of the dome. That dude's saying it can be written. They arguing, and me and the homies just had this argument 2 days ago. This movie's dope. And I started seeing that maybe it's not necessarily where you're from, but like where you're at up here, where you're at in here. You know, where you're at and how unifying hip-hop was worldwide. And so I think I've had the benefit of meeting people more than anything that are lovers of the culture. And if they get into it, they're trying not to do the appropriation. They're trying to take it seriously. They're trying to jump in, deep in, both feet, and be with. Like do it, you know. Cool. And so I've had mostly positive experiences, I'd say.
For example, when I met Chris Carr for the first time, and I saw him performing with the A T-shirt, and underneath there was a fishnet bodysuit. For some reason, that let me feel seen or somehow protected, because around men sometimes, you feel in danger as a woman. The homophobia in hip-hop is something that always disturbed me. It's not only against women, you know, it's against gays, against, you know, the LGBT community. nowadays we can finally see some rappers and some artists that actually are completely against that, and they are very explicit about it. They express themselves to the fullest, and that's a joy. But for me, growing up in the 90s, that was not, absolutely not a thing. So sometimes I felt maybe, I was questioning my place in hip hop because of that. We were always a very small numbers. The girls were getting lost throughout the years. There were maybe a group of 5, and then okay, no anymore, it's 2, and then no, I'm alone. And then that was like my experience in the hip hop.
After having this conversation, that I grew up in a different time. I mean, I'm 29, so I was born in '94. And so you said you graduated in '96 in high school. I was like, oh shit.
I love this.
So I was like, oh damn. And you look very, very young, so I was surprised. And so did you. When I learned when you were born, I was like, oh shit. But you guys look great. But yeah, like there was definitely homophobia, in general, in the scene, maybe a little bit in my crew that I was rapping with, back in the day. But yeah, like just because I grew up, in a different time, it was more accepted, Like, yeah, people would still say like, the F word, or like, say like something's gay, as an offense, to diss something. And, it still happens. But I just feel like it wasn't as prevalent. And I feel lucky and happy and grateful for that. But, at the same time, like I've had people, like completely turn on. I'm trans. So I've had people like completely act like my friend one day, but then if I piss them off or they get jealous about something or something goes down, then they immediately flip, and then, oh, that's the number one thing that they're going to use against me. So, yeah, I mean, it's still around. I mean, a few months ago, I got punched in the face and they broke my nose, and they called me the F word. You know what I mean? And he was like somebody that was supposed to be my boy, that I make beats with in the hip hop scene. So it still happens. And I'm glad that we're having conversations about it. I'm glad that more people are speaking up about it. But, we had a conversation last week that's like, there's a lot of these hip hop heads that are the legends that grew up in a different time that are just never going to change how they think or, the language that they use. And I'm not interested in changing people. I'm not interested in changing people's perspectives. I'm not interested in changing who people are. I want people to maybe understand and experience something with me or with somebody else, who may be trans or, maybe somebody with a different sexuality or whatever, have a good experience with those people, and then use that to maybe at home when they're in bed at night or when they're thinking to themselves, oh yeah, that dude was cool. Or, oh yeah, I had a positive experience. If they outwardly still use language or still say things that, maybe I don't agree with, but inside they say, okay, well, that dude isn't so bad, then I'm happy. Because I'm not here to control people. I'm not here to change people. But yeah, I mean, I think that now these conversations are happening. I think it's more accepted. I still don't know if there's any trans rappers out there. I'm not interested in making myself the trans rapper because I don't want that to be the thing that people are, oh, yeah, that trans rapper. Oh, yeah. No, I want to be respected for my music, and I want to be respected for the quality of my music and what I've done and what I've done for the community. So I won't put my foot forward to be that person. But if there is somebody out there that wants to be that person, then great. And then they could change the game even more and create even more acceptance. So, yeah, I mean, homophobia in hip-hop has always been there. I think maybe a little bit will always be there, but I think we're getting better.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Amir.
For me, talking about especially Italy, the situation changed a lot in the recent years. When I started to listen rap in the early 90s, we have some role models, okay, especially from the United States. We start to listen people like LL Cool J, like, I don't know, people have a sort of aesthetic, okay, masculinity, understand? But I think rap music, it's like, and hip hop, it's like a mirror of the society. I think that not the homophobia is in the hip hop, but it's in the society. And rap music, it's like a mirror of that. But especially in Italy, I think the situation changed a lot in the recent years. For example, now I listen a lot of rappers start to talking about that. For example, only also girls talk about lesbian, for example, lesbian rappers, and scene of the rapper man, okay, maybe not. When I listen the lyrics, now it's more sensitive about that before in the past. But I think the situation changed not in the hip hop, in the entire society. And now it's more accepted talking about that. In my case, it's totally different because I growing up not with a father. Like my point of reference was my mother. I growing up with my mother, my sister, and a lot of women around me. And especially when I start to write rhymes, I love that. I want my mother listen my songs, and I have a lot of respect for my mother. And when I start to translate lyrics, especially from people from the United States, I change point of view. I change perspective. For example, I love a lot of rappers in the past because I don't understand the lyrics. When I start to translate these heroes for me, no man, I stop to respect that because it's not my point of view, really. No, it's not my point of view. Yeah.
That says a lot.
Hmm. This is a topic I love and has so much depth. I'm going to try not to lose myself in it. On one direction is the notion of masculinity and hip hop being a bastion of hyper masculinity. One of the things that was dope about it, when I'm 18 or 20, you can be in a cipher and say stuff. This is the Eminem era, where you could say the most violent thing in a rap and act like you're just quoting a scene from a movie, or act like you're just doing horrorcore rap. So it's a vehicle for a type of expression of violence or anger or frustration, or in a way how punk and certain metal music channeled aggression into this vehicle of art. So I'm glad I had that. I have some old raps I would never read in public, but I'm glad I got those thoughts out to look at and say, I don't want to say that. That's not my real thing. That's like, that worked for Eminem, but I don't want to cut your head off and put it in your butthole and, you know, kidnap your girl and yada, yada, yada. And within the masculinity element, there was a thing of have sex with women, don't be gay, and you should be able to beat as many people up as possible. That was part of regular life during my time period growing up. Don't be soft, period. People in high school went out to drink and fight. People in college went out to drink and fight. And there was this element of, it's your fault if you get beat up sometimes. You're supposed to be able to protect yourself. And so when you get a room full of 50, 60, 70 people that are kind of all on that, because also when you look at hip hop in the mid 90s, yeah, you had the Will Smiths and you had the nice folks, but you had a lot of Mobb Deep. You had a lot of Capone and Noriega. You had a lot of Wu-Tang. You had a whole lot of, if you were young and black, you're supposed to be tough. And that has a lot of problems with it. But then at the same time, you go to Club Speed, and I'm in there with my homegirl, and I'm walking through, and I'm like, yo, this dude's in here looking scary. This is back when the tunnel was open, Speed. This is like 2000 or whatever. And real quick, I'm like, this dude's kissing another dude. And I wasn't used to that. Like, I had gone to all-black college, so, like, there were a lot of queer folks at Morehouse, and they were kind of relegated to a certain area. My homies were queer, but they weren't outward with it like that. They were not making out with their boyfriend on campus. Like, that would have been a problem. So I'm like, wait. And then my homeboy, again, I don't use this language. My homeboy's like, oh, yo, it's Homo Thug night. And I'm like, wait, what's Homo Thug? And it was like, that was a whole genre in New York of, like, a time period where people dressed just like Jay-Z and Nas and were at the gay club. You know, and that opened up a whole, like, there's a secret world of hip hop I didn't know about, you know, and around that time is when I started realizing I was too close-minded and that I held on to some thoughts, beliefs, or feelings that were stupid. And it was never hateful. It was never like people are bad, but I'd be the person who's like, well, I may not understand the lifestyle, but it's cool. instead of like, why am I talking about other people's lifestyles? That's dumb. Like, love is love. Like, cool. But it took kind of certain experiences and seeing my friends be uncomfortable in certain scenarios and seeing this notion of what you had to be a MC or in hip hop as a young black man, it started bothering me. And when some of the legends started saying crazy stuff, I got into it with sottotitolato on the internet. I love Brand Nubian, but there's certain things, when I see it, I'm a loudmouth. And so old heads don't want to hear it. But I have to then accept some of the old heads touched kids. They were still amazing hip hop artists. I have to be able to keep all that in perspective. Some of these dope artists beat their wives. I have to keep all that in perspective. But that's everything. Like, Einstein was a physicist genius. That's why I listen to him. I don't listen to him about how to raise kids or how to do any of the other stuff. Certain rappers are great rappers. They are not role models. I do not want to be like them. I do not want to live like them. And I've had to sort that out as I met people that I love that influenced me so much growing up. And I'm like, you just grabbed my homegirl's ass, bro. You 55 years old. She's 24. You know, and reconcile that. Some of these people should not be role models. And I think I wanted to keep that away from me. As I realized I couldn't dictate my audience, my music would dictate it. Or how I behaved would dictate who wanted to come to the shows. We doing house parties, and we in Bushwick, right down the street's government housing, right down the other street, it's a totally different neighborhood with people we don't know. Everyone comes to the parties. How do we keep it balanced and cool? One is when people came in from down the street, I didn't ignore the black kids that came in, because we were in McKibben Loft. There's a lot of white kids, a lot of international kids. When they come in, I'm like, yo, what's up, bro? Blah, blah, blah. And they looking like, and I'm like, yeah, I see y'all in the corner store, yo. And I also know y'all robbed other people 3 weeks ago. Nah, bro, we ain't gonna fuck with you, bro. Nah, yo, I'll be honest with you. And I'm like, what? And homie's like 19. He's like, yo, I live with my moms and my sister. I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna smoke my weed. Y'all got shorties everywhere. You don't have no problem from us. And when the people come in that we know actually causing problems, we got you. And that was 15 years ago. I seen one of those kids a month ago. They got 2 kids. They walking out with their wife. I'm like, yo, and he's like, yo, and gives me the look like, don't bring up none of that old shit. I'm a family man now. And some of these people have better jobs than me now, you know, but we met in that environment. But also, I had to do certain things, like we're doing a fishnet party, because those dudes won't come and act up. You can't sneak in a gun or a knife when you're wearing fishnets. Anyone who sees the flyer and is like, what, even the performers and the men got to wear fishnets? Yeah. Oh, that's some gay shit. Don't come then. And the people that came tended to be more open to lifestyle choices, more open to sexual orientation, flexibility, more open to, we don't even have to talk about it. It is what it is. And safer. Like, I like doing events where tough guys don't want to be there. Where you think, I'm so soft, I'm so pussy, I'm so gay, you don't want to kick it with me. Cool. Perfect. And that was tough when I then went to the corner store at 3 a.m. We throwing the parties, and I'm in fishnets, and the dude's like, at the counter, like, you see this gay ass nigga? And I'm like, bro, we see each other every day. I've been in this neighborhood 5-6 years, but now I put on one different pair of pants, and then that got me hype. I was like, one pair of pants can fuck up a person's head? It's on. We doing fishnets with no underwear. We doing, I'm rapping in booty shorts with we hanging out the bottom of it. We doing everything because it's personal expression. This is hip hop. There are no rules. You can't tell me I have to do one thing or another. We build the thing, we burn down the obstacles, we break down the wall, we go under it, over it, around it, build our own fence, have the homie boost you up. We had no space, we gotta make our space and be ourselves. And I love the idea of, even within hip hop, I'm not bound by what you'd expect. And it feels good wearing the fishnets. It feels good wearing lace underwear. And when people are like, oh, so why are you asking, are you trying to have sex with me? If not, why are you asking me what my preferences are? Why are you thinking that because of what I wear, it means anything other than I like wearing it? And I loved poking that. I loved prodding people's discomfort, where dudes sitting there and they looking at me and I'm like, yo, eyes up here. If you don't want to see my penis, you don't have to look at me in my see-through underwear. You can just be a regular person and look at me. Now, again, I wasn't doing the go in public and like flash people. We let people know. It is a fishnet party. Dudes are going to be in here. Women are going to be in here. People that are non-identifying with any of your genders are going to be here. Expect it. And we did it for 12 years, you know? And I think that for me was also healthy, and learning how to like get out of my own head. Like, who cares if somebody calls me gay? Who cares if somebody thinks I'm this or that? Who cares? Like, can you rap better than me? That means nothing. It's all, what you like. But can you rap better than me? I got bars, dog. I got bars.
I actually want to kind of end on, like, the toxicity of these pioneers, that they were like full of those bias, and that we still have that kind of legacy. When we talk about homophobia in hip hop, my culture is so homophobic. Yes, maybe it's changing, but I still have some sort of looks when I'm around in my little town in Italy, or just in general. It is very conservative, and men are supposed to be this way, women supposed to be that way, and I'm just like, it's a little tiring when you see that also in a culture that is artistic, should be open to anything. So how can we kind of deal with the toxicity of the pioneers?
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, throwing fishnet parties. I mean, for real, that's genius. And I think it filters out the people that don't want to be there. I mean, like, when we're talking about legends, but then there's also people now. I mean, I'm not gonna like drag people's names and shit, but like, just a few years ago, I was with a bunch of my friends and we all did hip hop, and I think we're chill, and there was a karaoke at a bar that we wanted to go to, but it just so happened to be a gay bar. We don't care, so we just went. But then one of the dudes says, I don't feel comfortable. This isn't my scene. I just want to go home, like, da-da-da-da. So that they kind of filter themselves out. I mean, and good. I don't know what else to say. Like, to talking about the legends and stuff, and like with Sadat X, like, he's said a lot of crazy stuff. And I've met the dude, and he's met a lot of crazy, and he said a kind of a lot of crazy stuff. Look, like, I don't even really know how to address it really, because I'm so far removed from that time period, and I'm doing something that's totally different. Like, these are some of the dudes that'll probably, like, 30 years ago, if I cooked up some beats, they would just probably steal it. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm not respecting them on that tip, and I'm not respecting them on the gay tip either. So it's like, pause. Nah, but no, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, listen, I don't associate with that. I just care about making dope music and connecting with dope people. So, and like you said, Chris, already, if I can push that forward through my lyrics or through, who I am or how I dress, then that's what I'll do. And doing that is going to change it. I agree with having conversations. I do think that's important too. But again, I don't think that you could really, really change people. I mean, the dude that said, I don't feel comfortable at this gay bar, he's one of the dudes out there right now who's like the bastion of inclusivity and diversity and stuff. But then when it gets down to the nitty gritty of it, maybe he's not. So I really don't think you can change people. But you can influence and inspire people. And doing that through the music is, in my opinion, the way to do it. So I love what you were doing. That sounds amazing. I wish I could have been there. I would have showed up in my fishnets. Hell yeah. Like, that would have been lit. Yeah. But that's all we can do, is just do that.
Be yourself.
This conversation inspired me a lot, really, really. Thank you. My situation with the pioneers, especially in Italy, changed a lot when my son was born. My son Nicolò now is 24 years old. When my son was born, I changed my perspective, for example, about the new generation, especially new generation of rappers. I start to have different point of view, start to have empathy with this new generation. But I'm 45 years old. I'm 45. Some people of my generation, some pioneers of my generation, don't have my empathy with the new, especially new rappers, really, and talk bad every time. This kid is stupid. But when I start really to listen my song and listen this new generation with empathy, I maybe I stop my respect about some pioneers around me, really. because I want to respect you as a man, not because you as a pioneer. Okay, and especially in Italy, some pioneers judge a lot, but don't understand the situation change. For example, only also in the music, we start with a boom bap sound. For example, in the 90s, inspired by rap group like Mobb Deep, like I don't know, Nas, but the situation changed. And I watch this new generation change style, dress, uh, techniques of lyricism, and the pioneers, especially in Italy, don't accept that. Don't accept that. Every time I listen these people, I think, why? The situation changed. I love the new generation, and my relationship with the pioneers, not it's not good. Really, really. Sometimes I think, especially, it's a human thing. It's not a hip hop thing. Okay, it's a human thing. You growing up and maybe don't don't have you compete with the new generation, but I don't want compete with 15 years old people, 16 years old people, because living in a different society, growing up in a different society than me in the 90s. And I think that the pioneers sometimes don't understand.
Yeah, I had some conversation with some pioneers, and I throw the word feminism, and I saw their reaction. I was like, oh wow, we are in still 1994. What was that like? Because I mean, at this point, should be even like mainstream, but it's still like a hard rock. Like they don't seem to open up on this conversation.
I think there's a paradox, or like there's a conundrum, or things that I can't resolve around hip hop and the pioneers and tradition. There's a part of me that's fully aligned with, no matter what cultural expression you get into, learn the history, be around the people that did it, and try to delve in. If you're going to be a fanatic, like different times in my life would definitely say hip hop fanatic. At this point, I'm more into like art, like creative expression fanatic. But there was a time where it's like, I want to go to every show I can. I want to sneak backstage. I want to get the photo of the people. I want to dap up Method Man. I want to yada 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 yada. And that was an amazing journey of being backstage with people like Dose One, or interviewing A$AP Rock when he's up at WKCR, and meeting C. Ray Walls, and then also meeting Snoop and all these other people. But I also did hit a certain point where I realized they are humans. I like their music. Some of these people are horrible when you meet them. And then the other people where I hate their music, I was photographing a Meek Mill show, and there was another artist who I won't name who's, super street. I would never listen to their music, but when we're backstage, that was the nicest person in the room. Hey, what's up, homie? You good? Like, you need anything to drink? Like, yada, yada, yo, make sure you keep your camera over here. I want to look out, yo. Yeah, come holler if you need. And I'm like, yo, you killed 37 people in the last record, but you're so nice. And then some of these conscious rappers who, in real life, very interesante, and it gets all wonky. And I think being able for me to say, don't idolize the person. Like, understand what it is I appreciate, and understand humans are fallible. And if you put me under the microscope, there's going to be something you dig up that looks or sounds crazy, most likely. Now, some of these people don't help themselves. They continue to say wild stuff. But now we're also into the human dynamic of generational change and shift, and that as a hip-hop artist, I'm supposed to burn down the temple sometimes. You sometimes learn the scripts, you learn the scrolls, you understand the magic, and then you got to burn it down because it went the wrong direction. So I'm always in that battle of respect the originators, respect where it comes from, know the history, go back to the various foundations, and also this is hip-hop, burn your shit down, we started it all over. And however people approach it, I don't like the younger generation that's like, I don't know anything about rap. I don't know anything about hip-hop culture. I don't care about it, but I'm going to make money off of it. But that's because I don't like capitalism, and I don't like people exploiting culture. I also understand it. I get, because they're looking at the people our generation who were doing fake stuff. The 20-year-olds learned from 45-year-olds that were lying about everything, that were corporate plants, that were being horrible towards each other. And so, of course, they don't emulate them. What did we do as 45-year-olds to welcome in the next generation? And I think, like you said, Amir, we did a whole lot of, we don't like what you do. You're not allowed in our cipher. Like, when I started rapping, you had to elbow into the cipher. Like, people made it hard to rap. It was a whole thing of, like, it might be easier to join a biker gang than start rapping with people. You know what I'm saying? And that changed. Now rap is available. Like, it's open. Like, you got programs on your computer, your phone. You can make a whole album. I saw this cat who did this whole album. Just got it mixed with a real studio. But so it is interesting to see the idols and to realize they're humans and to still respect what they did and how they changed my life. And my life will be ever for changed by some of these people. But I also recognize what I want to glean from it. And I think like you had mentioned, what's the goal if I am going to go on a tirade about it? Do I really need to change that person? Or do I put my time into collaborating with like-minded folks? Do I put my time into creating more safe spaces? Do I put my time into the good that is already present in the world? Or am I always fighting something? And I think that's something that, like, in hip-hop is something to sort out. Like, we've been fighting forever. The whole thing was down with the man, down with the system. Let's take down the government. Let's take down the big multinational corporations. Let's take down white supremacy. Let's take down. Some of hip-hop was, we love family and like doing music and dancing and singing and painting and drawing and making clothes together. And maybe simply get back to that in a certain extent.
It's never just music.
Life is political.
Here we go. Do you want to add anything? Want to say a word? Ciao to the Italian people? I don't know.
Ciao.
Say what up to everybody out there for us.
Get them ready, because now that we know we got to connect, we have to send this shuttle relay. Get you over to New York, get us overseas.
Yeah, we go there.
Find people in between. We rock it out.
Let's go. We're gonna do it in Rome.
Let's go.
We gotta hit the Parliament up. See me by the Vatican throwing smoke up for the Pope. We gonna be out there.
Yeah.
Grazie.
Thank you.
Grazie.
Thank you,
Ciao.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Vuoi ballare con me?